I love being straight edge, and I love this band because they are a straight edge band as well. So, very cool. What's up, everyone? It's your boy Matt Diazbo coming at you with some new music reviews. Thank you for coming on by. Today, I am checking out the latest release from the band Orthodox called A Door Left Open. If you've never heard of this band, Orthodox, they are a metallic hardcore band based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and have been in the scene since I want to say about 2016-17. I discovered them around 2020 during COVID when a lot of things were locked down, and I was watching one of my favorite musicians, Vincent from the Acacia Strand, stream on Twitch and everything. He kept wearing a hoodie that said Orthodox, and he's always plugging new bands and everything, and I really like the design of the hoodie and everything. Check the band out because he mentioned them, and since then I've been a big fan of them since their 2020 album Let It Take Its Course. Very, I would say, even though their name is Orthodox, they're very unorthodox in terms of how they make their music, and just with their style of metallic hardcore, it's always a little bit on the eerie, creepy side with stuff they're doing in terms of vocal playing, dissonant guitars, and just overly, weird production choices that make them sound very distinctive. And on this newest record from Orthodox, A Door Left Open, they're tearing through the boundaries of metalcore and hardcore with a record that feels more like a controlled demolition than a polished evolution. It's an album that just thrives on discomfort because it's relentless, grimy, and emotionally jarring. What Orthodox has crafted here isn't just a collection of heavy songs, it's an intentional mess of violence, introspectiveness, and unsettling tension. From the get-go, the band really doubles down on some really jagged, dissonant guitar work that is long been their signature sound. But here on this particular album, it feels like probably the most unhinged in terms of the guitar work. It's crazy wild what they're doing here. The riffs are scraping and scratching at your ear. The chugs, they're dropping like cinder blocks on the cement floor, and the drums rarely sit still to ever, form a very predictable groove on here. Like the opening songs, Can You Save Me and Body Chalk, they really lean into the chaos with these tracks. These songs are driven by some real gravelly and raw sounding vocals, and backed by some thick and distorted riffs that, feel very intentionally unstable. The stuttering of the stop and go playing here, the erratic pacing, it really defines the aggression on these tracks. The drumming, especially in the first half of the album, feels very untamed. It's constantly shifting in terms of its sound and sounding very overwhelming, and I feel like it's more interested in building tension, which it does, than having rhythm and groove. I will say that, it gives the music a very nervous energy to it, but also it creates this weird blur of the first couple songs, and it's really hard to distinguish them because they're so all over the place and they're just so unrelenting. And as you listen to the album, this kind of aggressive sporadicness they have here kind of settles in more. It doesn't really soften up, but it does, play into their stronger grooves later in the album. But I want to play a clip of Body Chalk so you get a sense of just how erratic they are at the very beginning of this album. The aggression here is unmatched, but man, it is really hard to follow along to these songs. And by the time we get to Dread Weight, Orthodox seems to have found their footing in terms of their groove and just overall cohesiveness. This is where I feel like the album really starts. The dissonant edge from the riffs, they're still here, but they feel more harnessed and more driven and just have more of a sludgy feel to it that has a lot of heavy confidence to it. On this track, it feels like the band is really locked in and kind of feeding off of each other instead of pulling in so many different directions like in the earlier songs. This song is a pivotal moment on this record because it makes everything feel more focused, and even when things get kind of sonically stranger later, it still feels more cohesive. Orthodox, willingness to experiment isn't just about aggression here. It's about how ugliness and precision can coexist when making music and art. And nowhere else on the record is it more evident than on the songs Bleed In with the Weak and Godless Grace. Bleed In with the Weak, has a very industrial stomp to it and features a very well, I guess you could call them a deathcore band, but they feature Matt McDougall of Boundaries, and his vocals here just inject so much guttural violence layered on top of some of the most nastiest riffs on the record. Like when this song started, I literally lost my shit because it was so groovy and just so infectious at the very beginning. So I want to play a clip of Blending with the Weak so you get a sense of just how the groovy and just infectious vibes they have here with this track. Maybe it's a familiar riff, but it's a tight riff here that they created. Godless Grace takes a slower, more methodical route, leaning into a, menacing crawl with drums and bass that feel really weighted and very deliberate, and eventually kind of unveiling almost like Slipknot-esque groovy two-step part that's pretty dope. And I think these songs are very good at showing the band's ability to control heaviness instead of not just, unleashing it. I noticed that throughout the album too, that the bass is playing a very incredible, vital role here. It's often the glue that is keeping the chaos all together, whether it's filling space on the tension building on the song One Less Body, or adding a very eerie and low end movement on the song Commitment to Consequence, where Andrew from Comeback Kid is really, delivering a very hardcore rooted vocal performance here that just fits perfectly with Orthodox's dissonant style of playing here. So I want to play a clip of that so you get a sense of just how weighted and the bass is keeping things together, and the guest feature from Andrew from Comeback Kid just fits in nicely. That signature dissonant style guitar playing here, chef's kiss from and you got to give it up to the production here, because with every layer of distortion, every crack of the snare, every thudding bass line that is giving so much room to breathe all these instruments. And even when everything is all very chaotic, the mix is still sounding really good. And I would say there's definitely a subtle shift in the album's sound in terms of the back half. And it feels like, the band is slowly climbing out of the chaos they created in the first half of the album. Tracks like Step Inside and Searching for a Pulse maintain that sonic violence that Orthodox is known for, but they introduce some new textures here, like glitchy guitar slides, ambient flourishes, and a touch of melody to breathe into some of that grit that they're making here. The instrumentation gets a little bit more playful here. The vocals dig even deeper, and they kind of dip into some almost animalistic growls here. They just have a very low feel to them. This stretch of the album feels less of the band is falling apart and more like they're reassembling, scraping together after some vital shipwreckage and trying to put something back together. Then you have the closer song Will You Hate Me, where Orthodox kind of shifts from being in attack mode and more into reflection mode. The song seems to dial back the pacing and everything, but amplifies the emotional weight. Slow, sharp chugs and haunting bass form the backbone of this song, and it feels less like a goodbye, but more of a resignation. The soft-spoken vocals paired with the dreamy, almost serene outro here kind of leaves the listener suspended in a sense of bruised stillness. You're taken aback by this new vocal style and this style they're presenting here, that it just kind of throws you off. You're like, whoa. It's a perfect final note here. It's vulnerable, it's unsettling, and it's unresolved. A Door Left Open is a dense, punishing record here, but also remarkably intentional. In its first half, it's pure chaos. It's a storm of noise and unstableness that, pushes the listener to yo, can you hang on? Can you hang with Orthodox? But as it progresses, the pieces start to click into place like that. Orthodox don't just play heavy music, they explore and shape heaviness with messy, unpredictable, and sometimes emotionally raw music. It's an album that feels alive in its discomfort, flawed in the right ways, and unafraid to be abrasive. And ultimately, it does take a while for it to get groovy and kind of, capture you, because it is very rough in the first half. But as it goes along, it's more cohesive and very intentional. So I would say, you got to stick it out for this album. It's a little bit rough around the edges at times, but there are some good payoffs on this album. And so I would give this album, Orthodox, A Door Left Open, a good and solid 7 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album, and leave me your thoughts. Until next time, guys, I will see you in the pit. Good things about you.